everyone that's joining the Monitoring On-Page SEO session. I'm going to be running this afternoon. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Lucy Russell. I'm one of the customer success managers with Crownpeak. So I work with our DQM clients in Europe. So what I want to look at today is a little bit about monitoring on-page SEO and how we use DQM to kind of help with that process. I don't think that the definition of SEO is going to be a huge surprise to anybody in this room, but one of the things that I wanted to focus on is the notion of relevance and why we're looking at specific things that we can do on pages in order to actually significantly impact SEO factors. So I actually quite liked, I know Tim mentioned earlier, defined relevance as the being pertinent to the matter in hand, so that's great. We've got more relevant things to talk about, hopefully in the next few minutes. So this is actually just a section that I pulled out of the Google Starter Guide for SEO, and if anybody hasn't read it, I highly recommend it. It's not that long, it's quite easy to read, and it's actually got some really good pointers in it. So one of the things that really I thought was interesting and particularly relevant when we're looking at the type of things that DQM can help us identify is the fact that individually these changes might seem like incremental improvements, but when combined with optimizations, they have a noticeable impact on your site's user experience and performance. So although we might break down lots of things that look like, you know, a few images here, a few headings there, the impact of all those together is playing a significant part when you're looking at your on-page SEO. Just to put that into some context of how it's working, and again, this is sort of top level stuff, but how the search engines are ranking those pages, how your pages are impacting ultimately where you get ranked when somebody searches for relevant terms. So again, this might not be news to lots of you in the room, but the programs are crawling your pages automatically, so different search engines, obviously Google being the main one, but Googlebot, etc., uses algorithms to determine which sites to crawl, and then produces a kind of list of pages they've crawled to then index. The content's indexed based on a huge number of different factors, but things like what's written, title tags, alt attributes, location on page, and so on. So this index is created of all of the content, which is then essentially pulled up when somebody searches a relevant term. So again, I'm going to go back to the point of relevance, because this is what we're kind of talking about with on-page SEO and with the type of things that DQM is helping to support. The way that things have changed with SEO tactics over years is the methods by which we think that we're improving our website's SEO performance. So previous things that may have been used are keyword stuffing, link exchanges, targeted writing, no longer carry as much relevance, if even any success. They don't produce long-term results, even if you've got short-term kind of success from sharing links. And there's really been a massive move from the search engines algorithms to a move towards content quality. So more than ever at this point, on-page SEO is important, really, really important in your search rankings. It's looking at the specific content on the pages, how that fits in, and whether or not it's actually relevant. The search engines are essentially aiming to move towards only serving up relevant content to searches, and so hence, you know, the move away from the kind of artificial techniques which has been going on over the last few years. So again, talking about relevance, I'm going to mention it a few more times, I'm sure, but the point of looking at your on-page content and quality of that content is not just about, you know, fixing the small things and hoping that has an impact. It's really about long-term success. So even if you're trying to focus on things like you're only focusing on off-page SEO or previously black hat tactics, if you like, they're not actually going to improve your ranking over time, because the idea is the need to serve up quality web content that a user wants to interact with, using the relevant terms and tags which are then indexed, ranking against the relevant queries for somebody else searching the site, users clearly able to access the right page, and essentially they're clicking through, interacting with your page, and so the cycle goes on. In essence, you don't want somebody to click on your page because it's the first thing that comes up in their search result, read it, decide it's completely irrelevant, and immediately bounce back again. Hence, again, the move for on-page and the focus on content quality to ensure that not only are you ranking in search engine results, but that you're actually getting users to see what they want to see, interact with your site, possible audience, possible consumers. So, tying that back in a little bit to DQM, obviously, as we're here to talk about, but also, again, from the SEO guide. I'll say it again, if you haven't read it, do. It's really, really useful. It's not that long and it's not that boring. But what Google says is some of the key considerations. How can we look at SEO? How can we improve the ranking? The top 4 bits here are straight from the guide, and the bottom bits relate to how we can actually help. So Google says create unique, accurate page titles. And how do Crownpeak help? We've got sections on title tags, a number of checkpoints that are reporting on the frequency that things are being used, pages which don't have a present title tag, omission of the company name, and things like that. On the next point, Google says use the description meta tag. How does Crownpeak help? We're checking for pages missing the tag altogether, overpopulated metadata description, and guidance on how these should be populated as well, from length that will improve the chances of being shown, to relevance, to necessity to contain certain words. These are all things that can be customized for each company can add their own customizations on the kind of standard checkpoints that we offer. Next one, use heading tags to emphasize important text. So how do we help? Again, there's checkpoints for that as well. So guidance on how headings should be structured, for example, length, guidance on making sure headings are present, correctly nested headings as well to ensure that the flow is correct within your document, are all individual elements that the Crownpeak DQM is looking for. Finally, links, use links wisely. Lots of things we do, again, looking for broken links, links not working, meaningless phrases, click here that won't actually tell you what the link is doing, and so on. So, as I say, these are just 4 of the sections that I've picked out from Google's own guide, and I have to caveat, they do say in the beginning, this will not make your search, this will not make you appear at number 1, there's no such thing that will. But all of these things will help. But it goes back to the point at the beginning that although they might seem like incremental changes, we've got maybe 4 or 5 checkpoints per heading there. Those checkpoints individually feed into the topic, which is all adding to improve the performance of your site, particularly focusing on SEO. So there's another point that I want to make about SEO, and it's probably something that you've noticed looking within the checkpoints, looking within DQM, is that there is an overlap with SEO and accessibility. Referring back to my favourite document, as it says, you should optimise the site to serve your users' needs. One of those users is a search engine. A search engine is effectively performing the same searches as a blind user. So whenever you're looking at things like your alt text, your headings, your layouts and things that are going to feed into your SEO, you're going to be improving your accessibility and vice versa. So you'll often find that when there's prioritizations to be made about things that you want to fix or issues that you want to highlight, the two are actually going to fit in quite nicely together. Lots of overlap, and I'm sure any of you that saw Aris's presentation this morning will see probably some even between what we're talking about today. Okay, so that's the sort of overview and idea about some of the things that we're looking at, the reason why we've created checkpoints in DQM, and why those small things, or seemingly small things, are actually playing a bigger part in your overall SEO performance. I'm going to go in to look at some of the details and kind of a couple of live-ish demos, looking at some of the things our checkpoints look for. But before I do so, any questions at this point? Any comments? Nope. Okay, just shout if there is, or we can have Q&A at the end as well. So, let me have a look at this. So, the first one that we have is SEO from the bottom up. All of these kind of headings that I'm looking at just now are ways that our DQM checkpoint library has been created in order to serve the needs of SEO in this particular instance, and the other headings that we work in. So one of them is SEO from the bottom up. Really the importance of building and relaunching websites so that SEO is in mind. They're built correctly, they've got good practices in terms of headings and structure, but also in the code that not only is going to improve your performance from the offset, but is going to be a lot less expensive to fix down the line. So things like checking for the presence of sitemap, the quality of URL, making sure that we're not using things which are going to potentially impede the way that a search engine can pick up your links. Inclusion of relevant files like JavaScript and CSS within your body tags. These are all things which feed in to the overall kind of guides about how to improve your search engine ranking. And it's also all things that we have checkpoints for. So, for example, if I just jump to the website, hopefully this works seamlessly. Maybe not. Bear with me one moment. There we go. So just looking at the Crownpeak website, and I'm not saying we've got the absolute gold standard in all the world, but I didn't want to pick on anybody else, so we'll just look at our own. So things that the checkpoints are looking for, things like the URL. Is that clear? Is that telling me what the link is? Is it stuffed with characters that don't make sense? Is that going to be obvious? We're looking for things like that. Checking for things like presence of sitemaps. Is it easy to navigate the site? Is that clear both to a user that can click through it and to a blind user, whether that be a search engine or a screen reader or other? So these are the kind of things that we're talking about when we're saying from the bottom up. What are the things that you want to relaunch or build your websites with that are going to have an impact on your overall performance with your SEO? The next one, I'll just stay within this, that I was going to show you is, aside from the checkpoints that are the kind of clear bits that flag the issues and say, we want to know this, how many instances of it and where are they, there are other tools within the system which are also helping to identify these things. One of those, and I think often underused, is the inventory section of DQM. So as well as flagging issues and saying, well, this page hasn't got a title tag, we can also report on pages that do, just to give you a picture of where those exist. So I'm going to look at that title tag frequency report. It's a standard report that's set up, so it's something that's available. It's not something that everybody uses regularly, but we've already got a really quick overview of how many pages are reusing our title tags. So again, I've just used Crownpeak as it's our example, don't want to pick on anyone else. But if we want to make clear what actually is in the page of our blog, we've got 20 instances of blog Crownpeak as the title tag for the page. You can scroll down and see how many times your title tag's occurring, and if you realise that you've got the same title appearing on multiple pages, then that's something you can look to do to uniquely identify your pages where you can. The next one that I wanted to mention is metadata description. So these are all feeding back to those points that I pulled out of the Google guide that we're also using checkpoints for. So metadata description, what's going to appear when I search for a particular term as a user? I'm not thinking about myself as a website owner or editor or developer. As an end user, if you're looking for something, what will and won't make you click on a website? So if I search for digital quality, I practiced before, but only to make sure it's I can type, that's all. So if I search for digital quality, and I can do this in a different browser to make it agnostic if you want to, but it's not fixed. What I can see is the Crownpeak digital quality management platform page. So at a glance, digital quality management platform, Crownpeak, I've got those two bits of information from the title. In the metadata description, digital quality management platform gives you centralized content of branding compliance, SEO best practices, and website accessibility checkpoints. So there you go. That's what we're all using. But it should be something which is clear, gives an overview, concise, not stuffed with keywords for the sake of it. And if what I'm interested in is a digital quality platform, hopefully that's something that I'm now going to be incentivized to click on because I'm not reading through loads of bump that's not actually going to be relevant. Similarly, Google's smart enough to outsmart descriptions, so if it's not actually going to be relevant, it will just show something different anyway. So all of this is really about going kind of back to that cycle that I mentioned before. What's the point? Why would you have relevant content? Why would you want someone to click on your site if it's not relevant to them? And it all feeds back into that. So just while I've got this open, then I might as well talk about the next one of the other points that we mentioned, which was alt tags. So using your images as well, it's a very important accessibility practice to be providing alt text for your images, but it's also something that will feed into SEO. If I'm searching digital quality and I cut to images, I've got a Crownpeak image appearing in the first couple of lines. So again, when you're considering things to be fixed or to be considered for SEO, for accessibility, they tie into each other. Alt text is an important practice, but it's also gives you the opportunity to increase your search engine ranking through image searches or just through your kind of overall index. So, to kind of conclude on those points of the checkpoints, as I said at the beginning, this was a few sample bits pulled out from Google's own guide on SEO. It's by no means conclusive. There's a lot more in the guide, and there's more checkpoints that we have as well. But I think it hopefully highlights some of the key areas that we're really focusing on, and goes some way to explaining why the seemingly small things are important and why fixing, one or two small things that appear on every page is actually going to have a big impact, more so than it might seem just by kind of, this image hasn't got an alt tag, for example. Okey-doke. So with that, any questions?